All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Mr. Yen, for speaking with FandomWire today. My name's Alan, and I'm super excited to talk about The Prosecutor.
Hey, Alan.
Well, so first of all, one of the things I've seen you mention a couple times leading up to the movie is that you were a little unsure about taking
Yeah,
on like a topic like the law
yeah,
as
yeah,
one of your movies.
yeah.
What kind of ultimately compelled you to make this film?
I've always been, I like to take risk and challenges. I, in the past, many of my films, I took chances. I try to tap into unknown territories. Some of them work, some of them didn't. Uh, if I could have chosen a safer path in my career, uh, there are probably two things would have happened. One, I would have less of a chances of uh, not making these films work, but at the same time, it wouldn't shape of who I am today. So I always been that kind of filmmakers, from day
Hmm.
one, from the days of you talk about 30, 40 years ago when I started off as a choreographer. I used to think of different the ways of breaking new grounds and shooting something that never been done before or editing something that never been edited like that before. So
Hmm.
it's always been that way. But for this film, in the beginning, you're absolutely right. I turned it down. I didn't want to do it because unknown territories, totally unknown territories, right? But then
Hmm.
after 2 months of thinking, and I said to myself, maybe if I can find a way to tell this story, which is a classic courtroom scenes, right? We've seen it
Yeah.
a lot of great court scenes. So I don't want to go there because I don't want to be compared to those great courtroom case scenes, movies, right? But at the same time, I see a combination of bringing the Donnie Yen kind of action world,
Hmm.
which is over the top and extravagant because what? How would you see a film a character taking on multiple opponents, right? That is a
Hmm.
that type of film, right? But at the same time, tell having these kind of interesting court scenes and making these two elements work as a story as a one storytelling uh, components. That was the hardest task. So yeah, I took the chance. I took a chance, and I think it worked.
I absolutely think it works. I think there's a lot more power to the
Yeah,
action sequences
yeah,
because we are so emotionally
right.
invested
Yeah,
in these
absolutely. You're
characters.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And I will say, what is the most difficult part about directing a film that you're also one of the primary stuntmen in? Because you've got to have all that action, but you also need those
Yeah.
quiet moments. What's difficult about
Well,
that process?
I've granted, right? I've been fortunate that I've been doing it behind the scenes from day one. I directed.
Hmm.
I want to take this opportunity to correct some of the misinformations in IMDb. I directed my very first early film. I directed two films in 1997. One is Ballistic Kiss. The other one is Legend of the Wolf under the budget of $500,000, right? That
Okay.
was my very first attempt of directing. Uh, it was an absolutely financial disaster for me. I was not an experienced director, as well
Hmm.
as I didn't have any money to shoot. But I was again, I like to take that challenge, and then I wanted to I had that dream. But since then, I've been doing behind the cameras all the time.
Hmm.
Sometimes I don't have my name on it. I don't put my name on it, but I do a lot of these works. I edit a lot of these scenes because I think ultimately, when you present uh, the vision, the exact vision, you it's not about choreography. It's how you shoot the scenes and how you edit the scenes, and at the end, how do you the final presentations you see on screens. That process you have to kind of overlook the whole process, right? So I've been doing it for the longest time, so I have no problem dealing with multiple roles. In fact, I enjoy doing multiple roles because the only way for my character to be exactly presented the way I want it, you have to be allowed to have that you set up the camera. How do you want to
Hmm.
shoot it? How do you want to pace yourself? All that. But having said that, it's very important to balance the two because as an actor, of course, you think of this way, your character, how your character flows through the story. But it's not
Right.
just about you, it's about your other characters as well. So finding that balance is really important. You got to be as clear-minded, as subjective as possible to balance that. When I'm playing the role, I'm focusing on the character. But when
Mhm.
I'm off the role, I have to be a director. You have to listen to your peers. You have
Yeah.
to talk to actors. Yeah, you have to think of a general, like overall, ultimate primary goal is okay. How is it going to affect my storytelling? Is it going to affect the relationship between the two characters? All that aspect. And I'm very comfortable of doing that. Always switching these kind of position.
Well, in your response, you had mentioned about how you work so much like in the editing and all these other
Yeah,
roles. And one of the
yeah,
things that I think is so expertly done in this film is how you edit the fight
yeah,
sequences between
yeah,
that first person view
yeah, yeah,
and the third person view and giving
yeah,
us the full scale of
yeah,
what's going on.
yeah.
Kind of tell us about the choice to go that
Joyce.
route.
Well, I believe I've always had a talent of editing from decades
Hmm.
ago. I always edit my own scenes, and I always watch other films. When I watch other films, I see the breakdowns. It's
Hmm.
like let me use music as an example. I
Hmm.
believe I'm a musician. I'm a jazz musician.
Yeah.
I understand how to break them down, right? So before I have these images uh, from the prior to shooting these scenes, shots are being formulated in my head.
Hmm.
So they're already formulated and edited in my head. I make very little changes on the set. I already have a clear vision in my head before I walk into the set. This is how I want to shoot the scene. Maybe it's through experience, maybe through a natural instinct, or maybe some talents. The combination of all that, giving me that advantage of I take on a scene, shots are being all edited. Obviously, when I walk into the editing room, that's another playground of mine, right? I
Hmm.
edit this movie about maybe a dozen times, different versions.
Hmm.
I love the process of it. I don't know if you were given an opportunity to watch the PTS
Yes,
editing.
I was able to
Yeah.
watch some of it. Yeah.
So for me, editing is another process of making another movie out of this
Hmm.
movie. So I spend a lot of times re-editing and finding ways of fine tuning in tempo, pacing, and different way of telling the story. Yeah,
Well, and one of the other things that I think is so great about the way that you shot this film and the way you made it is really evident in your scenes with both Yu Kang and also
yeah,
just in the at the end of the movie. One of the
yeah,
first cards that's up is you're thanking your stunt team for the work that
yeah,
they're doing.
yeah,
Kind of tell me about the process of not only collecting other
yeah.
people who are so good at stunts, but why do you think your film is so much better at stunts today than so many American films? I mean,
Well,
obviously you were in John Wick 4, but we don't get
yeah,
a lot of those anymore.
you have to really utilize what you have, your resources.
Hmm.
It's very important. I'm a director. I'm the one that drives the bus, right?
Hmm.
You got to have all these components, right? I'm the general. When you go to battle, you got to understand. You got to have your soldiers, right? You got to
Hmm.
know where you position yourself. I have a stunt team. I built a stunt team since decades ago. My stunt teams, like I wouldn't call it stunt team, but people that worked for me in the past, and they already built to their own success, right? But
Hmm.
I have people like Kenshi Tanigaki and this time with Taka, So
Hmm.
they already are very experienced action director. So a lot, unlike in the very beginning of my career, I would, I would, uh, I would focus mainly on the action. Right now, I take the director chair back and I let my guys to come up with different creativities, and I just pick them. Or a lot of times I jump in and say, hey, we change it here and there, to fit into what I just described to you, overall music compositions, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's positioning, and then also know your actors.
Hmm.
Maybe as an actor myself, I've been acting for so many years, but especially as an actor, I understand how the physical mechanic works. So when I
Hmm.
look at someone like Yukon or someone that I don't know, uh, because if I work with an actor, for example, if you in the middle scene where this young actor, first time then doing action movies, he'd never done action movies before,
Hmm.
but I'm quite confident when I look at an actor, I know what type of possibilities that I can draw out of them.
Hmm.
If I see someone like if I shoot you, right? Obviously, I have to know you first. I have to understand what physicality you have. Like, can you play
Right.
basketball? Can you do this? Can you do this?
Yeah.
Oh, you have some dance movements. You can do a split. You can do this. Okay, what I can do with these kind of physical ability an actor can bring to me, then I use my shots, sometimes editing, one or two stuntmen, stunt doubles here and there to make it work.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's not about. I'm not bringing you to a UFC fight, right? It's about filmmaking, right?
Hmm.
It's about how, at the end of the day, how convincing this actor or myself as an actor to to convince the audience that I'm engaged with him.
I mean, that makes perfect sense to me, especially because, you see so many actors, so many directors not acknowledge the skills of the people they bring on board. But
It's
that's
very
how you
important.
should.
I mean, obviously, I want all my actors. If I'm making an action movie, I want the most skilled martial artists or physical capable actors, right? Of course,
Mhm.
I want them, but that's not an ideal scenario you get, right? You
Yeah.
you know you have to you want I want great actors, but sometimes great actors not physically that capable, right? So you got to
Hmm.
find that balance, right? Oh, what is he capable of, right? Is he a
Yep.
good runner? Can he jump? Then you work around that, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Well, so one small thing that I did notice in the movie was at one point your character walks by a giant Millennium Falcon model. It looked like it was a Lego model. Was that an
yeah.
intentional nod to your time
Yes, it
in
was
Star Wars?
intentional because
Yeah.
let me show you something.
Yeah.
Just ah, do you see this? I don't know. Is that? Oh, hold it.
There you go.
Did you
Oh
see
my
this?
God. Yep, I can see it.
Okay, I built it with my son. It took me a couple months for me and him together. We built this together. Every time we have like he's in boarding school, right? So every time
Yep.
he come back to Hong Kong, and the father and son, we try to
Hmm.
build that together. So it's my set designer, and
Hmm.
he came to my office to work, and she saw that. He said, "Hey, I'm gonna bring a certain real Donnie Yen's life into the so." Yes, that was a particular moment. Yeah,
Well, and that was so much fun. Obviously, we all love your work in Star Wars. I mean, it's one of the most impactful characters I've
yeah,
ever
and
seen in that
absolutely, and also
franchise.
because of Star Wars, so it all
Yeah.
connects. So when she brought that, it's like I built that. My son loves
Mhm.
Legos. He built tons of Legos stuff, and he loves all the
Mhm.
Star Wars. He have all tons of them, So yeah, and I purposely did that and put it in the film.
Well, it was such a fun little nod. I loved it. So what is the thing that you hope people take away the most from The Prosecutor? Because it's such a rich film, both in its
Yeah.
action, but especially in its drama. Um,
Well, I I obviously every director or every filmmaker wants to convey messages. When you watch a movie, you can really kind of tell uh, what this filmmaker is trying. What is he about? Right? His part of him is uh, being processed throughout his their works, right? And but as a as a as an audience myself, I like my films not intentionally trying to preach, trying to
mhm.
lecture, rather than okay, you watch a Donnie Yen film, it's gonna be fun. I want you to be emotional. I want you to go away feeling good. Oh, I just watched a really fun movie.
Mhm.
But ultimately, of course, I want the audience to walk away with, oh, there's a message behind it, and that message makes me feel good. Yeah, I want the to feel good. I think yeah, ultimately, my films, I want, and it's always been my morals, right? I want
Mhm.
to bring positivity to the audience. I want audience to watch my films like, he really inspired me. He really really makes me feel good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mystery, and I really appreciate it. The movie's awesome. I really hope people
Thank
check it
you.
out. And
Thank you
best
very
of luck
much.
in the future.
Thank you very much.